Hello everyone, welcome to Merlin's Manor. I'm continuing my 25 Games of Christmas. This series is basically, my wife and I are playing 25 games through using our advent calendar, and we're playing up to 25 games with our kids as well, and then I'm going to do brief mini reviews of all the games that we played from the advent calendar this week. And so here we go, getting into the games we played this week. The first one that my wife and I played was Mariposas. And the family game we played was Planted. Now, Mariposas is a game by Elizabeth Hargraves, who designed Wingspan. It's one of those games I really want to enjoy more. I expect to enjoy it more, but it just kind of is okay. I rated a 7 out of 10. There's a good challenge of trying to figure out how far to take your butterflies away from Mexico to try and get different goals as you go up higher, both goals for the seasons that require you to be in certain places with butterflies or do certain things, as well as these little tiles you're going to get by visiting cities to try and get these cards that are going to give you extra bonuses if you complete the set, plus they're worth 1 point each. It's a fun game. It's got a bit of a push your luck element to it as you try to go as far north as you can to get as much as you can, or sometimes as far east even as you can, and then you have to get all the way back to the southwest Mexico with as many butterflies as you can. You've got some butterflies count as doubles, and you're trying to get those back because you get points that increase the more butterflies you get. And so you got to balance how much you're going to chase after all these other things, as well as how much you're going to focus on getting your butterflies back. The biggest way to score points, though, is getting those butterflies back, so you need to try and get at least 3 or 4 of them back, if not more. You get 2 cards in your hands, and you choose one to play each time, so it's got a very basic kind of way that you move around the board, and it's got that challenging element of trying to balance things. And so I do enjoy it. I just kind of wish I enjoyed it more, and maybe this one will play a little bit more in the next year to try and see if that bumps it up a bit more if we get some more plays of it. The other one here is Planted. I rate this a 7.5 out of 10. It's a very introductory, friendly type game. It's a game that my youngest daughter has enjoyed very much. Basically, it's got a lot of similarities to Sushi Go, and it's by the same person, Phil Walker Hardin. Basically, you are drafting cards. You'll have a hand of 6 cards to start out with each round, and you'll draft one pass to the next player, and then that card will either give you resources, or it'll give you a goal to work towards, or it's going to give you a tool that's going to help you in future turns. And you are going to do one of those each turn, or you can discard the card that you drafted in order to take a nursery action and get another plant. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be feeding those plants with resources that you get. And so you've got this constant kind of figure out this balance between getting goals, getting resources, and getting tools, and getting new plants. And so it's got a fun little resource management type thing to it. It's got a fun kind of card drafting style. I think it's kind of an upgrade to Sushi Go in some ways. And so that is Planted. On day 2, we played Chai and Ticket to Ride Europe. Now, the game that was meant for just me and my wife to play was Chai, but one of my daughters joined in as well. And this is a game that I rated 6.5 out of 10. It doesn't have a huge lot of depth of strategy to it. It's a fairly simple game overall. You're just getting resources to fulfill these different card orders. You want to try and get at least 1 per round so you can get the points from that and the tip. And there's these tip cups that are set up, and there's only the amount of cups per the amount of players each round. And so you're trying to kind of rush to get everything you need to fulfill those orders between the different resources and the different pantry items. The marketplace does have kind of an interesting kind of concept to it in that you are getting 3 gold to then go spend there, as well as whatever gold you already had. And you are able to buy all of things that are touching for a certain amount of coins, depending on where the highest one is on the board, either 1, 2, or 3 coins. And so you get a bunch of things that are together, you can get a whole bunch of stuff for like a couple coins. However, you also get this opportunity once you buy stuff, they slide down, you get to buy more. And so you can kind of plan ahead to how they're going to slide for you to get as much as you can out of that. And so it's got some interesting mechanics to it, but overall it's a very simplistic kind of game, and there's a bit of luck going on as to what comes out and what you're going to be able to fulfill, which cards you have. It's also got some elegant pieces to it. I really enjoy the look of the various pieces, especially those marketplace pieces, look really nice. And so I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Ticket to Ride Europe. I enjoy Ticket to Ride. It's one of my favorite entry-level games, gateway welcoming type games. Ticket to Ride Europe is my favorite of the ones that I've played. I've only played the original, this one, and Ticket to Ride London. We just recently got Ticket to Ride San Francisco, still have to try that one out. Ticket to Ride Europe, I have the 15th anniversary edition here, and that may boost my rating by maybe a half a star, I don't know. It's got some really nice pieces because of it being the 15th anniversary edition. I rate it a 9 out of 10. The standard Ticket to Ride America, I rate an 8 out of 10, so I give this one a little bit of a boost. And what I really enjoy about this game is a few things that it adds. You have these stations that you are able to play that will allow you to basically rent somebody's track in order to fulfill your route. Basically, the stations, if you keep them to the end of the game, you get 4 points per station, or you can forego those 4 points in order to borrow somebody's track to complete your ticket, so you don't lose points for that ticket, but you instead gain points for it. And so that's kind of interesting kind of way that you can kind of mitigate the being blocked off in certain ways. And so I enjoy that very much, and you kind of have to decide, am I going to try and go around and spend the extra and try and save those 4 points, or am I going to just use that? It also has a little bit of a push your luck element on some places, where certain places you put down the cards that you are planning on paying, but you have to flip over 3 cards from the deck, and if any of those match the color that you're using or are wild, you have to pay an extra one per each one of those. And so you might want to have a few extras in your hands just in case. You don't lose those if you don't make it. You just basically forfeit a turn there. And so you got a little bit of push or luck in that aspect. And also there are some spaces that require wild cards in order to be able to do that route. And so there's some interesting things that are added to the Ticket to Ride Europe that I really enjoy. Okay, on day 3, we only played one game. My wife and I played Paris, La Cité de la Lumière. This is a 2-player game. We've only played it a couple times so far, and so I haven't really solidified what I think about it yet. We've only played with the base setup as well, as there are some different variations that you can use depending on which cards you place out. And I haven't played with any except for that basic setup yet. And so I don't fully know what I think about this game, but right now I am tentatively rating it an 8.5 out of 10. It's a fun little 2-player polyomino type game. It's got 2 stages, one where you are placing down these tiles that you'll later be able in the second stage to place down polyomino shapes on wherever they match your color, plus you have a purple color which can be used by both players. And so there's a lot of planning out in the first stage where you're going to put these different tiles. You're also able to pick up polyomino tiles in order to be able to play the next round. And so you're trying to figure out in what order you want to do things, because there may be a polyomino tile you really want, but you want to make sure you get something set up where you'll be able to use that polyomino tile. And also you want to try and guide things to a certain way where hopefully the other player won't be able to block you from playing those pieces. And the second stage comes around, you're putting those tiles down, but you're also getting these special abilities. And which order are you going to get special abilities and which order are you going to play tiles down, because you don't want to get blocked off because you lose points for any tiles you're not able to get down. Plus you don't gain the points that you could have from playing those tiles. And the way you gain points is you are putting these polyomino tiles down next to lamps. And you take the size of the tile and you multiply it by the amount of lamps that it's touching. And so the bigger tiles, if you're able to get those down next to a few different lamps, then you're going to get a lot of points that way. And so it takes a lot of planning out. It takes kind of looking at what the other person might do and trying to beat them to certain spots sometimes, or to try and make sure you get things down that you really need to get down, and then work out what else you're able to work in there as well later on. And the extra special abilities kind of give you ways to mitigate things that happen during the game to hopefully be able to score better. And so when things don't quite go as planned, or even when things are going as planned, there's some tiles that just give you a bunch of ways to score extra points. And so it's really kind of fun, puzzly type game. It's got this great, and it plays in 30 minutes or less, so it's a great little kind of quick, easy game to get into, but it's a very thinky game to try and figure out and puzzle out how you're going to get things accomplished. Enjoyed it so far in the 2 plays that we've had. Paris, La Cité de Lumière, I rate an 8.5 out of 10. On day 4, we also only played one game, and that was Planet Unknown. Now, Planet Unknown is quickly becoming one of my favorite polyomino placement games. It's not quite as high as Isle of Cats, but I do really enjoy it. You are basically drafting a polyomino tile each round, and you are placing it somewhere on your board. It has to go against something that you've already played on there. The first one has to go against an edge, and you're basically building out, and the more you get on there, the more points you're going to score at the end of the game, because for each full row or column that you are able to do, you get points depending on how big that row or column is, or how difficult it is to fill up that entire row or column. Between 1 and 3 points for each column and row. And so you're trying to figure out how to get those polynomial pieces on your board. Also, if there's any meteorites that come on them, you are going to have to get rid of those in order for that row or column to score. And there's a tech track. You're trying to fill up these 5 different tracks, and you get points as you go up on all the different tracks, as well as one of the tracks allows you to move your rover each time you go on it. One track gives you tech that you're able to use. Another, as you put water on ice, you're mainly getting more points. And you've got a sieve track, which gives you little bonus cards as you go up it. And the quicker you go up it, that you get first choice at whatever bonus cards are in that level. And you also have a greenery track that you go up, where you get these little 1 square pieces that you can use to fill in hard to fill in areas. And each polyomino piece that you put down is going to have 2 different types of terrain on it, which are going to relate to those different tracks. And there's one that's an energy track, where you can then use it for anything that energy area is touching right at that point. And so you're trying to puzzle out both how you are fitting the polyomino pieces on your board, as well as how you're moving up those different tracks to try and get bonuses and points along those tracks as well. And so I just love the kind of puzzle that this brings. And there's just multiple kind of things that you have to think about along in the game. And there's a lot of replayability in that there are different corporations you can play as. There are different planets you can play on. And so it's recommended you start out with the base corporation and planet, and then when people get kind of familiar with the game, you can start using those asymmetric planets and corporations. And there's also events that you can add in, which kind of keep you on your toes. Some of them are good events that give you bonuses. Some of them take things away from you. Some of them just kind of make things a little bit more complicated for you to try and get something done that round. And so I just really enjoy all that Planet Unknown brings to the table. I rate it a 9 out of 10. On day 5, we played Parks and Taboo. Now, Parks is a game that I rate a 9 out of 10. I really enjoy this game. It's got some resource management as you are trying to pick up resources along a track. It's kind of worker placement light, in that you're not really just kind of going anywhere with your workers, and you're kind of restricted to this track, and you are moving along it. You can't go back on it once you've gone a certain place. And so you are picking up resources as you go down that track, and at the end you're able to spend those resources to visit a park. And you have 2 hikers that are moving down this track. And also, as you play along in the game, there's going to be a tile that comes out at some point that gives you an extra chance to score parks. This is, like I said, a fun resource management game. It's a fairly light game as well, and I really enjoy all the artwork. It's a beautiful game, and I highly recommend this, and I highly recommend getting Nightfall. This even would kind of give me an extra little bump in what I rate. I think I rated Nightfall a 9.5 itself. It really kind of brings the whole game up an extra level, because of the fact that you are adding better year cards. You can get more year cards, and those year cards are bonus cards which give you extra points for accomplishing certain things. And so I enjoyed that aspect, as well as the tents. And the tents give you extra things that you can do instead of the location that you land on. And so I just really enjoy Parks. It's a solid 9 out of 10 for me. And the other game we played is Taboo, and my family really enjoyed this. This is the first time I played this with my family. And it's a lot of fun. It's my favorite party game. I rated an 8 out of 10, which I know for kind of a classic, simple game, that might be high for some people. But I just really like the fun of trying to, you get this card and you've got 1 word you're trying to get people to guess. You've got 5 words you're not allowed to say. And you're trying to work out how you can get your team to guess that. And it's just really a lot of fun to me to try and figure that out. And you're given a hint that maybe you think is just the perfect hint, or several hints that you think are just perfect and your team's just not getting it. Or the satisfaction of when you give that hint that seems like it might be out in left field, but it's about the only way you could get around the words you're not allowed to say, and somebody just gets it and they go, and they say the word, and it's like, yes, that's it. And you move on to the next one, and you keep trying to do as many as you can before that timer runs out. It's a lot of fun as a party game. Really enjoy it very much. Taboo. So on day 6, we played Creature Comforts, my wife and I did, and with the family played Seven Wonders Architects. And now let's go ahead and start out with Creature Comforts. Creature Comforts is a game that I rate a 9 out of 10. Keep in mind I also have the Kickstarter edition here, so my edition is a little bit upgraded. It has better resource pieces and different things going on. And so that's maybe part influence there is the beautifulness of not only the artwork but also the upgraded pieces. But it's also a very fun game in and of itself, the mechanics. I really enjoy the worker placement mechanic that it has here where you know what 2 dice are that you're going to be able to use on your turn. There's 4 more dice that are going to come up, but you don't know what those are, and you have to place your 4 workers out, and each place you put them has some sort of requirement from the dice in order to be able to do that location. And some are any dice number will work, but a lot of them require very specific things. It may require specific numbers, or it may require like a straight, or it may require 2 of the same number, or it may require 2 numbers that add up to a certain number, or are greater or less than a certain number. And so you're going to put your workers out knowing what 2 of your 6 dice are, and hoping that the rest turn out. If they don't, you get a lesson learned token, which on the future turn will help you to be able to adjust the dice up and down, so it's not a complete loss, and in the future you have more options there to make things work. I really enjoy trying to puzzle out which kind of comforts you want to try and go after. You're gaining resources to try and pay for all these different comfort cards. You're gaining resources to try and go to the workshop and get some cards that are going to help you to do more things in the future or give you bonus points for scoring at the end of the game. You're also on a lot of the cards trying to make combos by getting 2 cards that relate to one another in some way. Or you are also trying sometimes to store up resources at the end of the game on those cards to get more points. And so you've got this little kind of balance between how many cards am I going to try and play, which cards I'm going to try and play, and what kind of resources I'm going to save for those other types of things. And so I really enjoy the whole process of the game. Creature Comforts, love it very much, 9 out of 10. And then Seven Wonders Architects is a very simplified Seven Wonders game. Seven Wonders itself is a entry-level game, or maybe even entry-level plus. And this is definitely an entry-level game. It's very simple. All you're doing on your turn is you have an option between 3 different decks to pick something from. 2 are face up, the one to your left and your right, and the one in the middle is face down. You are sharing the decks to your left and right with the players to your left and right, and so you're kind of wanting sometimes to grab things before they can get them. Sometimes you're kind of hesitant, do I want to take this card that may reveal something better for them? And so there's a little bit of push and pull there as well. And you're trying to complete your wonder by getting resources to be able to fill each row. And it's either a certain amount of equal resources, a certain amount of unequal resources to be able to fulfill each level of your wonder. As well as you got other things going on. You got blue civilization cards that are going to give you 2 or 3 points. You've got science cards that are going to give you the ability to get these tokens that are either going to make things to where you get more stuff going on in your turns, like when you get a certain thing, you get an extra card, or you get more points through those things. And you've also got military, where once you've got 3 of these different horn cards come up, you are going to go to war. And if you have more military at that time than your opponents, you get 3 points for each opponent to your left and right that you have more military power than. And so there's lots of different things going on. It's not always the person that builds their wonder up that wins the game, but that is the person that triggers the end game. And so hopefully when you trigger the end game, you've got the most points there, but somebody could easily score more through their civilization, through their military, through their science. And so it's never a guarantee that you're going to win when you complete your wonder. And so it's got a lot of interesting little kind of decisions to make along the way while being a fairly light game that's great for introducing people to the board game hobby. Seven Wonders Architects is one of my youngest daughter's favorite games, and so I recommend this for young players, people who are new to the board gaming hobby, as well as just in general. It's a fun, simple game. Okay, on day 7, the family and I played Sushi Go Party, and the wife and I played Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer. First of all, let's start out with Sushi Go Party. Sushi Go Party is a very simple game to learn and play. It's got a simple card drafting mechanism where you are getting a hand of cards, taking one and passing the rest on. Then you flip and reveal what that is, and you're going to score points for getting various combos and different things going on that way. So it's very easy to get into. It's a game that can play 2 to 8 players, and so it has a pretty good high player count there. And it's just a game that has a lot of variability. You have different types of menus you can set up. There's the original Sushi Go only had one set menu, but this one you can get different sets of cards put together, have all kinds of different variations. We even got some promo cards, 4 sets of promo cards, which we played 2 of this time around, and it really kind of freshened things up a little bit extra, giving those few different styles to play with there. This is a game that I actually rate 8 out of 10. Earlier in this video, I talked about another Phil Walker Harding game called Planted, and I rated it slightly lower, even though I found it kind of, on some ways, more satisfying, and because there's a little bit more complexity to it. But overall, I do think I still rate this one a little bit higher because of the fact that it's so simple and easy to get to the table. There's not much setup. You can play all the way up to 8 players, and so it's got a higher player count, which Planted caps out at 5 players. And it's just really easy to introduce people to this game. Even though Planted is also fairly easy, this one's even easier. And so I'm going to give it a slightly higher rating for that, especially also with the variability that comes in with all these different combinations. But I still like them both very strongly. And so I give an 8 out of 10 to Sushi Go Party. Now, Legendary, I give a 7.5 out of 10. This game is very similar to the Marvel Legendary game. You are basically competing with another player while also competing against the game itself. So it's got a semi-cooperative nature to it, but in the end, you're really just scoring points and trying to be the one that gets the most points. And so what you're doing is you're basically going up against some of the big bads, and it's a deck building type game, and so you are starting out with a weak hand, getting stronger by buying new cards up. You're fighting different villains along the way to try and keep them from the scheme from overcoming you. And then you're trying to get powered up enough that you can take out the big bad, and you're going to go up against him 4 times in order to do that. And then you get points for every bad guy that you've taken out. You get points for the bystanders you saved, and of course points for the big bad schemes that you conquer. You're working together in one sense to try and keep the big bad from winning, but at the same time, in the end, it's whoever has the most points wins. And this one adds a few things that aren't in the original Legendary series. You've got a light and dark tracker, which if it ever lowers down, usually something bad happens to you if it gets fully dark. And if it gets fully to light, usually something good happens. And then along the way, you are trying to kind of keep it balanced, because sometimes there are some things that you want it to be dark for your powers to work. Sometimes you want it to be light for your powers to work. And so it's got a lot of kind of interesting things that go along with that, as well as you also get courage tokens for different things, which go ahead and give you extra buy power or extra attack power that you can use at any time in a later turn. So that's kind of handy there. We enjoy the whole Legendary series. I enjoyed Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I rate it a 7.5 out of 10. Okay, there are 2 games on the family side of things that we didn't get around to playing this week. The first one is Minecraft Portal Dash, which is a cooperative Minecraft game. I've only played it once so far, and so other than the fact that I enjoyed it, I can't really say too much more on my thoughts on the game yet. I still need to play it a few more times to figure out where I stand on it. Can't give a full rating on it yet, not even really a first impressions rating. But after I play it a few more times, I'll be sure to come back and give you my thoughts on that game. The other game that we didn't get around to playing is Trekking Through History, which I rate an 8.5 out of 10. If you want to know more about my thoughts on that game, you can go here to check out my full review on the game, or you can go here and check out a playthrough of Trekking Through History. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.